We put our squirrel stone in a vise, and this is a very simple thing here. It's screwed to this piece. There's a bolt hole that runs all the way through, and it's an all-thread bolt. The bolt is fastened with nuts on both sides, and then we have wing nuts here to tighten the wood against the stone. And we use wood because it creates a good friction, and it's also soft and it won't crack or break the stone when we put tension on it. So what we're going to do here is we've blacked out some areas where we want to cut all the way through to create the profile of this squirrel. And so that's our next step. Now, probably the most valuable asset that we have in life is time. And nobody knows how much time they really have. But when it comes to creating, it's a good idea to save as much time as possible. And with having said that, we're going to use a Makita angle grinder with a 4-inch wet or dry diamond blade on it. Now, these tools come with a guard. I do not have a guard on this. I do not recommend using it without a guard. I've got a certain amount of experience, and I'm willing to take the risk to use this without a guard on it. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're using something with a high rotation speed, whether it's a sanding disc or a saw blade, it's a good idea to have a face shield. And that's pretty much how that's done. We're going to go all around it and take out the sections that we've got marked. Small hammers don't put out a lot of energy, so I'm going to get a bigger hammer. Okay, now we've got the back sort of profiled pretty good. We want to realize that we've got probably a bigger stone than we really need for this project. And the back of a squirrel's tail is kind of shaped like this. And this is going to be our base. You're going to have some oak leaves and acorns down around here. This is our model. This is our model right here. And so that is basically what we're after. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this back too. And it'd probably be a good idea to use a saw on this, but yeah, I think we're just going to go for it with the chisels. When we come around front, we're going to have a situation just more even narrower. The head is going to be very narrow up here. Something like that. So we're going to cut away all this. And then as we come down here, his hands are kind of spread out. And he's going to be holding something that's going to be in his mouth. and then his haunches are going to be down here. So basically what we have is sort of a pear shape. And we can make a dividing line right where the edge of his tail curls up behind his back. So first thing I'm going to do is cut down the tail. You can see where we followed this line. Now we're going to do it on this side. Okay, that's partly roughed out. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to start shaping this head. I might just try and break part of that off with a pitching tool. Okay, so by angling our pitching tool on about that degree of an angle, the force of the tool goes through the stone basically on that same angle. Now his little paws are going to be really close. He's got these two little hands that he's using to hold the peanut, and his elbows are more out into this area. So these are going to be, his hands are going to be closer here, and his elbows are going to be down here. So that's like a V shape, basically. And so that's what we've done here. So now the idea is just to keep shaping and forming this until we get to a certain level of finish. And we're going to leave a little bit of stone. We're not going to carve it before we carve it. As we come down to the finished product, we're going to use our tools to create the shape and the finish that we want. In other words, we're not going to cut it smooth in sort of a shape and then carve it. Well, in a sense we are, but we're not going to try and finish it to the final shape and then texture it, so to speak. We're going to texture it while we cut it. What we've done here is we've made the squirrel symmetrical somewhat. There's a lot of work to do yet. But I pitched this off with my pitching tool. And what we're going to do in here is we'll create some oak leaves and some acorns. And we're just going to use the shape that the stone broke when we chipped it off. There's no sense in trying to create something that Mother Nature's already created for you. She's created a shape just by hitting it with this pitching tool. You probably will reshape it, but we're just going to take a leaf and sort of run it around this shape. And leaves, as you know, in the fall, they tend to curl up and take different shapes. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, you could find any sort of a shape of a leaf in the fall time, and there you go. Now, one of the things you want to be conscious of when you're creating a sculpture is you want to make it look spontaneous, which means you can't spend a lot of time just really nitpicking and carving in every little single hair. Now you can, and there are some really wonderful, masterful animal sculptors like Paul Manship that do an excellent job of that. But I like to be more spontaneous. I want to get faster. I can't afford to spend 3 weeks on a squirrel that I may make a couple $100 on. So I've really got to go to town. And so what I've done here is I've really pumped up the volume on my hammer, and I've let this tool just sort of ride on it. And then in the back here, what I've done is I let that ride on there, and then I went over it with this to kind of give it that texture. If you look at the back of a squirrel's tail, it almost looks like a brush, like the ends of a hairbrush. So it's not really great, but it's going to have to be what I've got right here.